Thank you, Anne-Marie. This webinar is going to go over how to set alerts in MotiveWave, and there's a number of ways we can set alerts. MotiveWave is probably the most expansive platform I've ever used for alert settings, as you'll see, in its ability to set alerts on prices, on indicators, and on drawings. So this is an outline of the webinar. We're going to talk about the toolbar icons, the preferences panel, the dialog box for editing alerts when you create alerts, the alert panel so that you can monitor the alerts you have open, modify them and delete them. And we're going to talk about creating alerts, the different ways of creating alerts. Then we're going to talk about the alert history window and showing all the alerts historically on your chart. And finally, we'll talk about how to trade automatically from alerts. So let me bring over the MotiveWave window. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the tool bar. Right across the top of the MotiveWave console, you see the toolbar. You can see that we're in the console. If we were in a chart window, then we would have a different toolbar customized for chart windows. But we're going to use the console today, and that's my favorite trading view because I can jump to different pages. I can look at my indices, all of my stocks listed across the top. I can look at a 4 grid or a 6 grid very quickly, and I can look at the news. So I like to work in the console because it offers me the greatest flexibility. So let me go to our demo page back again for Apple, and let's look at the toolbar. The way you customize the toolbar to include the alert icons, and these are the two icons that I'd like you to put onto your toolbar. One is for creating alerts, and that's just one of the many ways that we can create alerts through this toolbar icon, and for viewing the alert history, which I had open on a different window. So to add those toolbars, we go into MotiveWave Preferences, or we can click this little gear in the top right-hand corner. And that will open up our general MotiveWave Preferences window, and you can see we can set quite a number of preferences to customize MotiveWave. Today we're just going to look at alerts. So over here across the top, we'll click on alerts. And these are the default parameters for the alerts that we're going to set. We can align the alert symbol on our chart either in the middle of the chart, on the left of the chart, or the right of the chart. We can choose to show the alert buttons or not, to show or hide the alert, although I can't imagine why you'd want to hide an alert on the chart, but you might. You could have them all hidden, and then when you set an individual alert, you could choose to show alerts individually. Show the alert labels, automatically play a sound when an alert is triggered, and show the lines, and I'll show you what those lines are. This is the line that appears across the chart to mark where your alert is. You can set it to send you an email or not, to the default email that you have in your preferences. And then alert history. So I've got this turned on for the sake of our demonstration today, and I'll show you a chart where the alert history is turned on, where we'll capture and we'll keep on the chart all of the alerts that went for that day. And you can set that to any number of days you'd like. This is going to pop up a warning for you before it sends an automatic order. If you don't have this and you choose to trigger an order from an alert, then it'll go automatically without a warning. And alert deactivate warning is if you were to cancel an alert, this will just warn you that you're canceling an alert and give you a chance to correct it if you made a mistake. So these are the preferences. Sorry, I didn't show you how to pull up the icons for the toolbar, and that was why I was here in the first place. So let's do that now. Let's go to MotiveWave Preferences. Let's click on Toolbar. We'll choose the toolbar because we're using the console and not a chart group window or a chart window. We're using the console. The two icons that we want to pull over, I've placed them at the far right, and they're Create Alert and Alert History window. And normally they would be on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side, I'm sorry, and you would move it over to the right, and then you would place it where you want to place it. In your toolbar, click Apply, and click OK. So there we have the two icons that we're going to use most frequently in the demonstration and that are quite important to your, to me at least, in making up a functional toolbar. So we've gone through the alert preferences. We want to understand the alert dialog box. The alert dialog box for creating an alert is very similar to the preferences defaults that we saw just a minute ago, except now these are for the individual alert that we're creating at that time. So the first condition is price. The second condition is it crosses either above or below, or you can set the alarm both ways, above and below. Set your price and whether you want to trigger it multiple times. Now we're going to talk about indicator setups shortly, but if you were to click indicator, it will show you all of the studies that you have on your chart at that time so that you can trigger alerts for when your price crosses one of these studies. But for now, we're just going to set it at a price. We're going to have it trigger multiple times. So each time the price crosses 624.28, an alarm is going to go off. That may be more noisy than you'd like, so you can just say, just trigger it for me when it goes above that. So when it crosses below, you won't get an alarm. When it crosses back above, you will until you cancel the alert. The label, you can say anything you want here to remind you later about why you set that alert. So you can say that that is the 200 EMA, for example, or it was an Anne-Marie trading level. And then you can add some comments in the comment section, because when you look at editing an alert, your comments will be there. Again, you can give yourself some information as to why you set that. This is going to show your alert. This is going to play your sound. If you choose not to use the preset sound, you can play a particular sound file. If it's a really important alert, I'll do just that. I'll play something that's unmistakable, maybe a song from iTunes, but it'll get my attention. And do you want to set yourself an email? On the Display tab, we saw those before in the Preferences. You can set your alert in the middle, left, or right. You can show the cancel button, the label, or the line. And lastly, you can trigger off a trade. So you say place trade on alert activated, and we'll look at that when we finish the webinar in a little bit more in detail. So there is our trade, our alert that we just set up here. If we want to change it, we can move it up or down. And if we want to cancel it at any time, we press the cancel button. So that's the alerts panel dialog box. Now let's talk about the different ways that we can create alarms. Obviously, we know we can create it from our toolbar. We can create an alert that way. That requires us to set the price. If we right-click in the margin where we want our alert to be, so if we want our alert to be above the previous high, we would move our cursor to that point, right-click in the column and say Create Alert, and we'll get the same dialog box. If you want to edit a previous alert, double-click on the alert, and your box comes up. We can also set alerts from the Alarms panel. I'm going to talk to you about the alarms panel now. Remember, this is a page environment. So in our console, let's go to our foregrid here. In our console, we have our pages across the top. And then down below, we have different tabs for each of the charts that we want to track in each grid of our layout. And I've got a 4-grid layout here. We can add charts to any one of these grids, watch lists, quote sheets, depth of market, time and sales, option chains, an order panel, a positions panel, any one of these to any one of these grids. Or we can add what we want to do now, which is the alerts panel. I've got 2 of them. Let me close the first. So what the alerts panel does is it shows me all of my current active alerts anywhere throughout MotiveWave, whether I still have the chart open in any one of my grids, in any one of my pages, or whether I've closed it. This indicates here that the Juniper alert is still set, but I no longer have the chart open. It's not a chart that I'm watching anymore, so I can cancel the alert from this point. I can double click on any of the alerts and edit the alerts. I can click in this column to go to the chart that contains that alert. It may not be visible to me on this page. It may be on any one of these other pages. So to avoid having to peck around for where that chart is, just click here and it'll immediately take you to that chart. So that's the functionality of the alerts panel. If you look at these icons, they're in the top right-hand corner of the alerts panel. You can pop up the alert history window. Remember that I have that on another screen. We can create an alert. We can edit an alert. We can cancel all alerts, or we can expand that window full screen, and then double clicking on the tab brings the window back into its place in the grid. So we've looked at how we can place alerts on price 2 ways, remember? By clicking on the icon in the toolbar or right-clicking in the right column, or in the alerts panel. Now we're going to look at setting alerts based on studies. So we want to place alerts based on studies. So again, we right-click in the column, say Create Alert. When price crosses an indicator, when price crosses the EMA 8, my alert will go off. When it crosses above, which is the green line that I have here. So when price crosses, in this case now, it'll be above. I can do it by, I can set alerts for crossovers, for when one study crosses another. So if I wanted to do where the 8 crosses the 50, SMA 50, I could do it that way. So when the SMA crosses above, sorry, when the EMA 8 crosses above the SMA 50, my alarm will go off. I can click that, and I will have that alert right here. And it says to me that my EMA 8 is going to cross my EMA 50 at this point right here for that candle. Now this is a dynamic alert as opposed to a static alert. A static alert is one set on price. A dynamic alert will move with the candles, and that value will change because obviously the intersection of the 8 and the 50 is going to be a changing event. Let's talk about how we can set alerts on drawings. Let me go to a 1-hour chart of Apple, and I have this trend line. You know how you can expand and you can contract charts with these 2 icons at the bottom. So I can choose to contract this chart, and I see my trend line. I want to set an alert for when price crosses this trend line. Now, just a note, in order to do that, the trend line has to be extended far enough beyond where the time period where you want to be tracking price in this trend line. And the way to do that is you click on the trend line, right-click on the trend line, and say Create Alert. When price crosses the trend line, I'm going to say crosses below the trend line, give me an alert. Click OK. When price crosses the trend line. Now, because it's pegged to the trend line, we can't move it. This one, which is simply price, this one we can move. Except I can't grab it. That one we'd be able to move. This one we can't. Now, as price moves, it's going to change in relation to the trend line, and your alert will move with the then current price of the trend line. Similarly, it will work with one of the angle tools. So we open up our components panel. Drawing alerts tool will work with the trend line. It'll also work with one of the wedge tools for the time being, and that is the angle wedge tool. So we take our free wedge tool, flip it, draw our wedge, right-click on the tool, and create an alert. So now we've got our wedge tool here. We've got a top line and a bottom line. When price crosses the wedge top line, the alert will go off, or when price crosses the wedge bottom line. So that's how we set alerts on drawings. When price crosses a trend line or price crosses the free wedge. So there are many different wedge tools. Right now it's the free wedge tool that works. You can set alerts on volume. I'm going to turn the volume on, and again I have an icon in the toolbar for that, so I'm going to turn on volume. And now when I right-click in the column on the right and say Create Alert, one of my indicators is going to be volume, or the moving average of volume. So when volume crosses the 20 moving average, the alert will go off. So I can set that, say OK, and now my alert will go off when the volume crosses the 20 moving average. For setting alerts on studies, and here just for clarity, I'm going to move this up a little bit. This is Anne-Marie's stochastic study. So right-click on the right-hand side, say Create Alert. When the SMI 4012 crosses a certain value, or you can say when it crosses signal 1. So that's how to set the alert for a study. Now, any study that you have on your chart, you can set alerts. So once again, you just right-click in the right-hand column, say Create Your Alert, and then set your alert either for condition crossing a price, or condition crossing an alert, a study value, or a condition crossing a study crossing another study. The alert history window. We talked about that one just a little bit earlier. And let's pop up our alert history window. Our alert history window showed us by symbol. The signal it was giving us, that was the note that we put into ourself. Why the alert was triggered for price crossing 3302. And you click here to go directly to that chart. Now in the Cree window up here, let's pop that one open full screen. You'll see a couple of clock symbols. Open this up a bit so you can see them. You see a couple of clock symbols. These come from the preferences setting that we set earlier that asked us to show all the alerts, show our alert history in this case 3 days, but I had it set to show 1 day. So it will keep all of the alerts as they trigger on the chart if you'd like to see them for the day. And then finally, just to close the webinar, we're going to talk about trading on alerts. So you can, when you right-click in the column, you can trade or you can create an alert. You can say when price crosses this price, I want to place an alert for CRE. It'll show me the bid and ask. I want to buy stock, or I can sell stock, or I can buy an option. I choose the expiration, I choose the strike price, say whether I want it to be a put or a call, and choose the account that I want to trade from, what type of order, and my volume. And then click OK. And you'll get your warning here. This type of order will be submitted by MotiveWave when the alert condition is met. MotiveWave must be running and connected to the broker to ensure this order is submitted. And there's your order. When price crosses 48.37, you're going to sell. Double click, and there's the details of your order. So in brief, that's the extent that the alerts can be customized in MotiveWave. I think they're extremely flexible. I don't know of another trading platform that's done it as well. We can set the alerts on price, on studies, on drawings, when studies cross studies, when studies cross drawings, pretty much limitless.